Okay. Okay, we'll call our meeting to order this evening for Tuesday, December 12th, and we want to welcome everybody here this evening. We will now have Allison standing in for City Clerk take roll call.
Mayor Van Oster,
Here.
Vice Mayor York,
Here.
Commissioner Swindell,
Here.
Commissioner Jones, here. Commissioner Maples.
Here. Okay. Next on our agenda is our invocation. In the absence of Pastor Mund, who is usually here, he must have had something come up, we will have Commissioner Swindell give our invocation for this evening.
Father, we thank you for this great opportunity to come before you today and to watch over a city. Father, we just thank you for the wisdom that you bestow upon us and those that come after, Lord, to make decisions on behalf of this city, Lord, for the good of the city. Lord, we thank you. We ask for your wisdom. We ask for your strength, Lord. We ask for your endurance to do all of these things, Lord. We pray, Lord, that you would just bless us, prosper us as a city, Lord, cause us to grow and protect us from all harm. In the name of Jesus.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Swindell. Okay, we will now have a quick review of our agenda. Does anybody have anything they want to add to this evening? Okay, then it will stand as presented. We will now move on to our consent agenda, consisting of 3 items this evening. The first is the City Commission meeting minutes from Tuesday, November 28th, 2023. The second is action to set the public hearing for the fiscal year 2023 budget amendments on December 26th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. in the Coffeyville City Commission room. And third, our 2023 appropriation ordinance number AO-23-23 in the amount of $878,964.77. Our minutes, does anybody have anything that needs changed? Added? Okay. And the public hearing, Mark, do you have anything you want to say about that for the budget for that? That's just to set it for how we always have to do and have to make sure. So this time we're doing that. Okay.
At the end of each year, Kansas requires based on your budget. If a budget line, budget fund could exceed what was that in the final meeting. Housekeeping measure. Budgeted fund exceeds what.
All right. Okay. Thank you. And then moving on to our appropriation ordinance, Vice Mayor York usually has a rundown of some things that stand out on there every time. So if you will do that for us.
Certainly would highlight some of the bigger items. So Action Communications, this is for IT staff, $15,369. Equipment Management Company, this was a rescue spreader combo cutter, $49,612. Hawkins Incorporated, chemicals for water treatment, $12,256. Meriton Health for our health and life premiums, $43,064. Muller Construction, this is for demolition of 14 properties and a culvert replacement, $93,375. Southwest Power Administration for 923 energy purchase, $11,795. TC Underground 6-inch main replacement, $17,050. and enter a payroll for November 26th of $421,439.
Okay. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to mention on the appropriation ordinance this evening? Okay, if not, I will move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second. Give it to Pam.
Motion is made by Mayor Van Oster, seconded by Commissioner Jones, to approve the consent agenda as presented. Commissioner Jones?
Aye.
Commissioner Swindell?
Aye.
Vice Mayor York?
Aye.
Commissioner Maples?
Aye.
Mayor Van Oster?
Aye. Okay, thank you. Moving on, we will now have comments from the public. Any citizen desiring to address the commission shall be recognized. Please advance to the podium, state his or her name and address for the record. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes unless extended by a vote of the majority of the commission. The commission does not hear matters involving litigation or city personnel. The commission does not take action on subjects that are not on the agenda unless unusual or hardship conditions exist. Citizens may address the commission on agenda items as they are brought to the floor. Do we have anybody here this evening? Okay, if not, we will move on to regular agenda items, which first consist of public hearings, special presentations, and proclamations. And tonight, our city manager, Mr. Mark Hall, will give us a presentation on Coffeyville, past, present, and future.
I want to apologize first.
Your mic, please.
Yep.
Sorry, I want to
Thank you.
apologize
That's
first
okay.
to the commission. If you heard me this morning on the radio, I'm getting laryngitis, and I pretty much butchered the morning
That's
show.
okay. all right.
Coughing and squeaking, and so I'll try to, go through this and make it as clear as possible. The first thing that I wanted to start off, and this is just kind of a look at, what the city has done and where's the city at. It is one of those what I'd like, as we go through this, to remember something that happened, and this is according to the CDC. I think we've all moved past, but for 2 years, we were going through a pandemic. And as the CDC would, it was on March 11th, the organization, declared COVID-19 a pandemic. So on March 13th, the president at that time, 2020, as far as declared a national emergency for COVID-19. So starting on that date, all cities, restaurants, these things didn't know what to do or go where. The city kept open, but it is one of those that in December of 2020, 2021 is when you started seeing variants. And the United States and the world is still in a pandemic. They're still in the commission, and if you can think back to Zoom meetings, all the Zoom meetings, and we had meetings down front, it was one of those that we tend to forget that period and what was accomplished during that time. And then on March 8th, 2022, Hawaii was the last state to announce an end to universal indoor mask requirements. So that was 2 years of the past 5 years is that we were in COVID. And it is one of those that a lot was accomplished, but sometimes we forget about COVID, and we forget how long we were and how long City Hall was closed and meetings didn't take place, and everybody was working from home. I want to say the city staff, nobody worked from home. We showed up every day, we wore our masks, and we conducted business with the public I think it is. Some of us don't remember how long those shields were up. And somebody commented today, they finally took the ones down at Walmart. And they noticed that Walmart looked the way it did before the pandemic. So if you'll keep that in mind as we go through, is just the past to the present and letting you know the situation in Coffeyville and what has been done. We start here, and this is something that the commission's familiar with, but over the past 6 decades, Coffeyville has experienced a steady population loss. It is declining by 49.22% from a high of 17,382 residents in 1960 to 8,826 residents by 2020. The current population that Coffeyville is at could be compared to the same population as 1908. It is one of those, Coffeyville is included in a class of cities with the highest population loss per capita in the state of Kansas. It is one of those that the only reason, because Coffeyville is a great community, but it is one of those, as you can see, something needs to turn. A direction needs to go a different way. And as you can see through the years, those are 10-year increments, but from 2000 to 2020, we lost 2,195 residents. From 2000 to 2010, 726, but some of that is included in the flood. We lost residents. But then from 2010 to 2020, Coffeyville lost another 1,469 residents in those 10 years. So it is one of those, as Coffeyville went forward, that is something that Coffeyville has to address, is most cities bounce, up 1%, down 2%, up 3%, but they bounce. But Coffeyville has steadily declined, as you can see those numbers for the past 60 years. The thing is Coffeyville had to look at housing. It had to look at population, because with that you address the taxes, you address many things, and the good things for Coffeyville. So that is one other thing we're noted for is Coffeyville is in, according to the U.S. Census data, the poverty rate in Coffeyville ranges from 26 to 29.26%. 1 out of every 3.4 residents of Coffeyville lives in poverty. 2,582 of the 8,826 Coffeyville residents reported income levels below the poverty line in 2020. It is one of those, poverty across Kansas is roughly 12%. It is poverty across the United States is roughly 11.5%. It is one of this, as meaning Coffeyville has a dramatically higher than average percentage of residents below the poverty line when compared to the rest of Kansas and the United States. It is one of those that Coffeyville is included in a class as having the highest poverty rate per capita in the state of Kansas. The only reason I'm bringing this up is with city staff, the direction had to be changed. It is one of those that you can see that we have 1/3 of our population almost living below the poverty line. So everything that Coffeyville had done in the past, it's not to say that it's anyone's fault. It was just a direction that had to be changed. So that's where we go forward in the rest of the presentation. During COVID, keep in mind, things were done to change that direction. The next is during our financial condition during this period, just like to talk, and this is what the commission has brought up before. As you can see, this just gives you a little history of the graph, but it is one of those that Coffeyville's valuation, as you can see in 2019, was basically, and if you drop a number, and that's how you do, is for each mill, it was worth $50,910. It is one of those that, so each mill that we put on as taxes, that's how much in tax revenue that we get. So if we look at 19 in comparable year, the next year we started to see that decline. It was one of those that you go over the 50, it was saying that what we lost in total revenue at the bottom line, as you can see, is to the general fund, and this is what has to be made up by the city to sit there, and because of loss of revenue was $210,571. That is out of the general fund. Now you see that in 2021, the valuation continues to decline. And it is one of those that if we compare to 19, now the general fund, before we even start the budget, is looking at $318,208.26. So before we even start working on the budget, that is a deficit that we will not have in revenue. It is one of those as we move to the next year in 2022. The total deficit when compared to 19 is $421,600.68. We can do a couple of things, and that's what the city staff, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because you were aware of this as a city commission. One, you can lay off staff and you can cut services and sit there and go until you cover that $421,000. Or you can get smarter. So, staff chose to get smarter. And through this thing, there was no furloughs, there was no layoffs, and staff did everything they could to hold the line, and I'll get into that about the levy. It is one of those in 2023, you can still, we're starting without the budget with $414,567 in a loss. And if you remember that suddenly the valuation, homes were selling, everything was selling at higher prices, and that's where you see that it raises. One thing we will never get back is franchise fee loss to the general fund. So, even though we have propped up in valuation, now a mill is $55,000, we still have a loss of $180,494. It is, again, that I said that the city had to make a choice. We knew the commission did not want to pass on this loss of revenue to the taxpayers. So staff became real smart. And it is one of those, I thank all the commissions, everyone that's been a commissioner, for understanding how we had to work through this. But you put in the middle of that COVID. So it is one of those, it is one of those, I think I've said it, I don't have to read this, but I'm proud to say the city is in strong financial shape. It is one of those that'll be passed on. The city is currently structurally sound with a balanced budget, and operating revenues are greater than expenses. It is one of those. We will continue, and the continue of the city is to look at short-term versus long-term. And that is that someday, we hope, with the city getting stronger, be able to look at long-term. But right now, we have to watch every penny, and you've been a part of that. It is one of those that is through COVID-19 we saw, like many, is unemployment, and it did. It affected the city through these ways, but it is one of those, every citizen tightened their belt during that time. So the city should have too, and we did. I do want to go to the next slide. And this is a slide that during this is the commission, which is the right thing to do, because if you increase the mill levy unnecessarily, that's just plain wrong. So the commission has set us out through this time, through those losses, is staff will hold the mill levy. It is one of those that we started in 2019, and this is the comparison to. It is one of those that in 19, the mill levy was 53.1300. 53 mills, and it is one of those, as you can see, moving across the 5 years. Basically, in November of each year, even though you submitted your budget in August, it is finalized in November, and that's where you find out exactly what your mill levy is. So even though you submit holding it, it will fluctuate up and down a little. You try to be accurate, but you can see that it is at 53.29 is the previous 3 years and has been submitted in 2024. What we have is that mill levy came down, and in 2024 it is 52.8780, which is actually lower than the original 19 years ago. So despite all the troubles in this, that was the right thing to do for taxpayers. We didn't pass on the burden, nor would you let us. It was one of those, it is the right thing for Coffeyville. But that work did, and I want to thank city staff. It wasn't what I did, it was what they did. And I think it's something I'll always be proud of and stack them against any others. You have very, very, very smart people. But as we move on, we'll go to the next, is the sales tax. This is a driving force of Coffeyville. It is one of those that, as you're aware, a third of the sales tax collected is by people that don't even live here. They drive through, they buy a candy bar, they purchase a Coke, or better yet, they live outside Coffeyville and they go to Walmart, because that's considered in the city limits. They collect sales tax. So it is, a sales tax is considered fair, but why wouldn't you use it if a third is paid by people that don't even live here? This is our sales tax history, and if you look, you can see starting in 2019, where you see the start of those arrows, that is our sales tax collection. Our dip was roughly in 17 and 18, but this is where it's moving now. Towards the end, as we move through the years, we started setting records, and you can see that faint blue line across, that is that level. Each year we've been, in the past couple of years, we've been setting records on sales tax collection. So keeping in mind that all this collection, sales tax, stays in Coffeyville, but a third of that is paid by visitors. So if you look in 2023, that's the very end, we still lack December collection, and we're almost equivalent, close to what we collect the total of last year. So I strongly feel that will be another record in sales tax collection. it is, with that keeping in mind, on November 2nd, 2021, voters passed a sales tax. With that was, it contained 40% for housing and community development. There was another 40% for parks and improvements, and then 20% for downtown. The voters passed, and like I said, if you read, that was the advertisement in that, but explaining a third comes from people that don't live here. They can enjoy our parks or go to our downtown, but it is one of those, this is for the benefit of Coffeyville. The next issue was just this past November 7th. That is the issue of highway sales tax. It is one of those are streets, and it explains, and if you look at the bottom left, that was put out, these are the streets and how they're going to work through the years. This is the plan. It is one of those, that illustration is basically, if you see that red sign, that says where we're at. And that is not good. It is one of those that the voters did sit there and understand these things need to be taken care of. KDOT will always require a portion to be paid by the city. If not, if we do not have the funding, then we have to go to the taxpayers. It is one of those that the taxpayers approve, but that's keeping in mind, remember, a third is paid by people that don't live here. The next is housing and community development. If we go back to our population loss, this is the key. The key to the future of Coffeyville is population. That's it. That goes for taxes, that goes for electric rates or utility rates. Population is the cure for Coffeyville's future. It is one of those that if you, housing is, back to housing, a reported 459 homes were damaged by the flood in 2007, representing approximately 10% of Coffeyville's housing stock. Most of the damaged homes were demolished, accounting for a decline in the city's housing stock from 2000 to 2010. As of 2023, an additional 441 homes have been demolished due to blight and unsafe conditions. At the time of this meeting, it is one of those, a total of over 900 homes have been removed from Coffeyville's housing stock. That is, with you consider that during a 10-year, 11-year period until 2021, we had no permits for new construction of new homes. That is very uncommon, but it's not treating or remedying the situation with population. So with that, it is that a group in 2021 built their first homes. It is one of those sold and moved on, but it is one of those, Coffeyville is doing a lot of things, and I'm just going to touch on, in November 8th of 2021, by your action, you created a Housing and Community Development Department, something to address population. It is one of those in 12/7 of 2021 is, by your action, was approval of the USDA Mutual Self-Help Technical Assistance Program. That program is about to move forward in a big step, but I also want you to remember COVID went till 22. COVID went to 22, so this program was obtained, but we're still going through 22, and it's ready to move forward. So it is in 6/28, 2022, the city commission, which is giving us more to use, approved the special assessment policy. Then in August of 23-22, commission took action and approved the 2022 Coffeyville Housing Needs Analysis, which is required for the MIH and it is required for the RHID. It is something that we are looking for in the future Coffeyville housing. Then in 9/28/2002, you took action and approved the MIH, which is Moderate Income Housing Grant, application for submission, and that was awarded and approved by Kansas Rural Housing Commission in 12/16/22. You see what is being constructed over the 2-year period is 14 brand new homes. 7 of those had completed, and they are going to move on the other 7. It is one of those that they qualify for a sales tax incentive in housing that for new construction of home is $3,000. They qualify. It is one of those in 1/24/2023. You approve the sales tax and all the programs, the new construction single family incentive, the multifamily housing incentive, first time homebuyer incentive, senior assistance programs, which is weatherization, emergency home repair, and you also approved the USDA programs. With that, that is our incentive. That is an incentive from Coffeyville, which we are stacking with the incentives from the state. So this was a big effort that you did to move the city forward. It is one of those in the strategic plan, and we'll get into those later, but it is Coffeyville's diversity, prioritization, housing, options for people of a variety of incomes and backgrounds. They believe to promote the growth through equitable development and reduce the housing affordability gap. It is one of those, the strategic housing plan of 2030 will employ neighborhood-based housing investment. It will also attract more affordable rental housing and preserve dedicated affordable housing units across Coffeyville's neighborhoods. And 3, it will expand home ownership opportunities. And 4, housing innovation and partnerships and collaboration. This is something that you created, and like I said, in previous years, this is what the housing department and focus is on population. It is one of those, I can tell you what they envision, and that is just a great Coffeyville. There's a big, long paragraph on what they believe in, the housing department, and what they are trying to do. The next, as we move on, is planning for the future. I just wanted some things that were significant. We'll just do in 6/9/2020, action to approve the city funding request policy. It is one of those in 10/27/2020, action to approve building permit waiver fees. I think we all remember that. It is one of those, with that policy, action to approve the 2018 ICC Building Code and IPM Code. That is the Property Maintenance Code. Do you understand that the federal programs require this? So the city had to move. The last date was 2012 on our codes. So the city moved that and set that up for Coffeyville's future. It is one of those, 7/13/2021. You took action and approved the City of Coffeyville Airport operation funding. It is one of those that we had in June 1st, the former FBO decided to retire and give up. The city didn't own anything except for basically the runways, which through FAA, but any of I guess the fuel farms and these things, the city did not have. So the city approved, and that has been explained to others. The city approved because we have to have an airport if you want any economic growth. It is one of those. That was $250,000. It was one of those to take over the airport, buy the fuel farms, buy the equipment, restore the building, do these things. And then along came the county, which I'm very thankful. The county gave the city $225,000 through ARPA, therefore returning the economic to, except for $25,000 to the economic fund. So thank you, ARPA, and thank you, county, for hearing us, because we didn't know that we would lose the FBO. And partially that's due to COVID and wanting to retire. If you remember, air service went pretty much to nothing. So it is one of those in 7/13 on the same meeting. You approved an interlocal agreement with the USD 4405. What that was is the city stepped forward. It's a requirement by state. We do inspections. It is one of those. This is a requirement. It was a required document. We had to explain that to them. But in other words, we turned over through an interlocal agreement to the high school for their inspection. That gives them the opportunity to hire the engineers that designed the building to oversee, because our capabilities at that time were limited. So that's the interlocal agreement. 12/7/2021, you approved the conveyance of the Veterans Memorial Stadium. It is one of those that was something that had been a subject of the community forever, and it was one of those that it was resolved. With that is working with the college, and I appreciate that. Of course, you as commission worked with the college, but what it was is who would donate to a city. Some people think we print money, but we don't. So it is one of those that, talking to the college, they have had a significant amount of donors step forward wanting to address the stadium. So that was in the best interest of the community, because you have a great facility. You do not want to see it fall down, but the Coffeyville took it over, which led to a agreement. And that is a great maintenance agreement between the three entities, the city, the school, and the college. And that is to maintenance. It is an agreement that is for 15 years. But when we had the stadium, of course, we paid for it. It is one of those. It wasn't a big cost. It was $1 for the stadium. But it transferred so they could get donations to help with the stadium. But they stood by us through all those years with maintenancing, and it was our turn to stand by them now that they took. It is one of those in 6/28/2022, you implemented the special assessments policy. This is another policy that's for the city commission that outlines for housing and housing development. You can use that for commercial, but the city commission now has a full bag of incentives for housing and development. Then in June 28th of 2022, the college asked if they could own the baseball fields. And so you conveyed that property to the college again. It is one of those. It's a great thing. It is one of those. There's not any more talk. They're great people to deal with, and I thank the college for theirs. If we go to the next, Next, planning for the future. This is Coffeyville has a lot to do. If you look at and you remember, you have this library. It is one of those that, as you look, you first up have a strategic plan entitled Envision the Possibilities, Strategic Plan 2030. That outlines things that were important. That's interviews with staff and some public. It is to outline where the city should go to remedy the situation that the city's in. You have Envision the Possibilities, Parks, Trails, Master Plan. That is for our park system. It analyzes the park system, and with the sales tax, it actually gives the future of what the park should be in the years that they should be. You have the next is Envision the Possibilities, and that is the Coffeyville Police Department Strategic Plan 2030. This is what we do, and there's an economic portion in that as we build back, it is one of those we're going to be involved in our police department economically. But it is one of those, and I think everybody knows police departments all over. We've got to build back staff. The next is your strategic housing plan, 2030. And then you have, which is Coffeyville Housing Component Guidelines. And what that is that is actually sitting there explaining what we can do step by step to accomplish the strategic housing plan. The final in addressing housing was staff put this together, and that is a housing needs analysis. That is required, like I said previously, this has to be done to participate in RHID, the MIH program, and several other programs. Mr. Avey referred to this that is necessary to get that MIH. It is one of those, you go Envision the Possibilities, Economic Development Strategic Plan. That is one, and that outlines the strategic and economic. Contained in that is things that participate with other entities, but then also what the city needs to do to market both the industrial park and the city as the city grows in the future. Envision the Possibilities. This outlines our programs, which through the sales tax is the downtown rehabilitation programs. Excuse me. That gives, we can hand those out, and we've sent those to downtown and explaining what's available. Besides, it goes into some extra, I guess, state programs and that are available, they're approved, and that's an IRB and some other things that we've discussed. This Coffeyville Economic Development Incentive Guidelines, and that's probably the most important. It is one of those that outlines everything from the state. It outlines some federal programs, and it outlines our local incentives. It is one of those, tells you things you can do that you can afford to offer and when to offer those. But that is given a plan that sits there and says, when you have a situation, you can go to and you can see what all in different ways that you can offer. Of course, the state, the Department of Commerce will assist, but like you know, that people hear of property tax abatements, just want to clarify, that's a local incentive. The state cannot give those away. So when somebody says, what's your local incentives, they're not talking about what money you have. They're talking about a property tax abatement, because that is the big money. That is the big money in a property tax abatement. So anyway, that outlines and gives, and the city can, and the city in the future can always reflect on those. That is considered your strategic plan library. I know you've got a copy, and it does set out. Everything that you see in there was written in-house with the assistance of staff. The good thing about that is several studies is you'll pay up to $45,000, $60,000 to have somebody come in and write a strategic plan that will actually look at you for that day and that time. But if you do not go that way, then you pay them again to come in and change the plan. This allows staff, it's all written, is if the direction should go a different way or something happened to Coffeyville, that plan can be changed anytime that the city wants. And it gives that direction. Some things will always go, and included in that, and when it was written, is our levy. And I'll get into that a little later on, but it is one of those. The strategic plans, it's a dynamic and continuous process about how the community sees, thinks about, and creates through decisive leadership and management, commitment, and actions, the future it deserves. It is one of those that the residents of Coffeyville have big dreams and great hopes for the future. Envision the possibilities 2030 helps guide that guide the way. Coffeyville truly deserves to be the city of choice. It is one of those that I will say that I'll just throw this in recommendations. Since this is my last meeting, it is one of those that is 2 weekends ago. I was get confused in time, but 2 weekends ago, the commissioners, 3 commissioners, went to Washington, D.C. It is one of those that I want to say, in your understanding of what process we've been working on the levy for 2 years. 2 years, and when I moved here, it was one of those, I've never been held captive by a river ever before. In 2019, we were inches away from it overtopping and happening what happened in 2007. At that time, usually, and you wonder why we hadn't picked up the ball and moved that forward. I want to say city staff sit there, which it is contained in the strategic plan, but it is one of those, city staff picked up that ball and started addressing it 2 years ago. You have now federal agencies that have visited Coffeyville that are pursuing, and you have 2 senators and a congressman that are in Washington, D.C., that you met their offices, that are going to carry this and get it funded. I strongly believe it will be funded in the future, and I strongly recommend that each year the city commission, future commissions, go to Washington, D.C. until that funding is obtained. And we are now looking at upwards, it was 20 to 25 million. Yes, we cross our fingers, and I don't want to say, but yes, we're hoping they raise it 4 feet. Then we wouldn't have to worry about it anymore. It is one of those that is probably going to get up around 50 or 60 million. So it is worth, we went up there and did other things, but as you know, you commissioners, you said, Senator Moran came in, wanted a personal, asked to come back, and he arrived in Washington, and I thought that was fantastic. But you talk to staffers, and it is one of those, everyone, even our FEMA meeting, want to help Coffeyville. So I recommend that you continue that each year until the funding is obtained. The next is downtown streetscape. I recommend that. Your sales tax, 5 years that you give that downtown, what we planned and what should continue is to go through KDOT and obtain a downtown streetscape grant to actually, as Coffeyville's downtown changes, to actually sit there parking on both sides, and it will make it the mobility downtown, it'll be a brand new shiny penny. So I recommend you still do that in the future. I do recommend, and we started and continue to evaluate infrastructure. It is one of those that you have a water plant, which we are going in that process. It's 50 years old. At some time it will fail, but it is one of those we need to address that, and that's why we started that analysis. Stormwater will be next, but then you move into each part of our infrastructure, and they need to be analyzed. It is one of those that we've always heard, and that is, you have the infrastructure for 25,000, and we're only 8,826. So we're taking care of a lot of pipe and a lot of things that we don't need. So I recommend that goes forward. You must address streets. It is one of those explaining, and I thank the public for passing the sales tax, but it is one of those, this is for the highway. It is one of those that we have to start. And that is with paying in the future, and I can say that it is a lot of studies could be paid for, and it comes down to simple as dollars. You have extremely smart staff that when you sit there and go, I only have so many dollars, then you take, for example, the 4 streets that get the most travel going north and south, and the 4 streets east and west, and you start. There's a lot of woe in that, but that's all you can do. In the condition you can see is we got to do something about streets. And it is one of those that you've got to sit there and attack it, and it's going to take a long, and the calculation is, in a perfect world, if you could do everything, it will take you 70 years. 70 years. If we cut that in half, it'll take you 35. But it is one of those that you have to start. It's well intended. Nobody was wrong, but you can't keep on just putting stuff over stuff over stuff over stuff. So I recommend that you continue, and you've got engineering and you've got public service that understand the streets and understand what they need to do in the future, and they will follow that plan. And when it comes time for a vote, which will be next November in 2024, for the residential sales tax. It is one of those that I recommend you continue addressing poverty. It is through housing, and there is interest. You have 3 companies that right now want to do through the low income tax credit program. And remember, like I said, at the start, about a third of your population is in poverty. You can't wish that away. You can't ignore it. So it is to embrace it and sit there and do wondrous things that you can. These will be modernized facilities. It is one of those, while in Washington, we're working on trying to be a HUD housing authority. All these things is that's a part of your population. So there is a lot of people that, as far as affordable housing, it is very, very profitable. And instead of another community getting that, why not Coffeyville? So I recommend you still address in poverty, is still address housing. It is one of those we even have through the housing department where development can be. And it is one of those that there's a lot of good things if that comes, but you have 3 groups that are interested in doing that. So it would be, I'm just as a reminder, quality of life. Remember, parks are free. You've got 10 years of improving parks, and if you haven't been to Sycamore Park, please go. There's people walking on, and we have to tell them it's wet concrete, and we can't walk on that. You will see that. It is a gift every year in design, December 31st of every year. So Merry Christmas. You'll move from park to park to park. It is one of those, it's dedicated, it's 40% of that sales tax, and it's dedicated for that sole purpose. It can't be used for anything else. It is one of those to address that. That is a great thing, and that is quality of life. So when you come to Coffeyville, not only buy a new house, but we got a park you can play in. And every neighborhood will have a park. So that is I could go on and on about what things that are for the future, but everything's contained in that right there. Your strategic plans of everything. It is one of those, I'd like to sit there and say thank you to not only the citizens of Coffeyville, but the city commissioner. I'll do this, and I'll try to get in without losing my voice. It is one of those, I'd like to start off by saying thank you to several people who have been helping the city through this situation or transition. Paul Kreitz has been handling all our legal work through this whole time. And it is one of those, we are getting help from electric and finance. It is one of those, I will meet with the commission because some of that time will have to change, but it is one of those that I'll have probably a work session before I leave on that. It is, this is your city, this is your home. You're standing on the threshold of a new era. Your collective futures are intertwined and independent with your ability to work together towards common goals for the community, economic progress, and prosperity. I know the City Commission's commitment and resources is to work cooperatively with all for the benefit of all. You know that the rising tide lifts all boats, and the receding waters again bring hope and optimism as you have to overcome Coffeyville's challenges. And that was kind of a play on words because of the levee. Sorry, I took a little poetic justice on that. Anyway, as Coffeyville moves forward, I hope the City Commission pledges the same as you have. The City Commission will not be run over by the challenges it faces. The City Commission will continue to act and be ready to adapt so that the city will remain a place where citizens can realize their dreams for their families and their futures. And businesses can stake their claim to prosperity and success. You've done that. You guys have done a lot. And it is one of those, and I hope that continues. When you think about everything that you've moved forward, not only you, but commissions before, you're addressing what I started out at the beginning of the program. The direction was downhill for Coffeyville. The University of Wichita estimated in 2030, Coffeyville will be a population of 7,500. That's not good. You kind of ask, what do you know that we don't know? And then the thing is you just do the math. You just do the math. And that is because it's consistent. That's changing. And that's something you had to change. And you all embraced it. And I am thankful for that. It was tough, but you did great things. Anyway, it is one of those. The City Commission will strive every day to fulfill your shared vision for Coffeyville to be the city of choice. Thank you for the opportunity to serve Coffeyville. Thank you for allowing me time for my granddaughter. I think you all know the story. That's why I want to say it was a big thing that I made a promise when I came. I give everything I had. But I had a granddaughter that was diagnosed with leukemia. And in that, the commission had always been understanding that if I had to go, she's in remission, but it is one of those I've always owed Coffeyville for that, and the commission's understanding. And you've known every time there's been a scare or something like that where I've gone. It is, thank you for allowing me to work with such great city employees. And thank you for understanding I must return home. I did, and I think you know the reason. It is, this is probably the first time I've said it publicly. There's been a lot of things said, a lot of things that are made up and narratives and this stuff. My family member passed away on July 2nd. The funeral was July 10th, and I drove back after the funeral. It was along our family farms. It is one of those, we are heavy in western Kansas, but it is one of those that's when I announced that I would retire at the end of the year. I couldn't leave Coffeyville. I couldn't walk away from it, but it is one of those that you can imagine I've got to go and take care of things. I know a lot of things have been said, but I'm sorry it was personal. It was one of those that I thought my retirement, that's kind of my business, but I thank you for understanding because you've known that. And it is one of those that I will leave it on that note. Thank you so much. Coffeyville is a great, great, great city, and it's got a great future. And it is one of those that things are going right, and things have been, yes, ugly at times, or this, or a lack of understanding, or knowing the truth. I can't blame people, but it is one of those that Coffeyville deserves to win. And it is. You do. There is sadness, but there's so much good. And I thank you for the opportunity of serving Coffeyville. So, anyway, that's it, and I delayed the meeting, so you can blame that on me.
All right. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
We appreciate that, your presentation and your words, and we do thank you for all the things that you have done. There's been a lot of good things that you've done, and we appreciate it very much. Okay, we will now move on to old business. The old business is our second reading of ordinance S-2303, which is an ordinance of the City of Coffeyville, Kansas, authorizing the levy of a 1/2 cent citywide retailer sales tax. As you will remember, our first reading we set up the last time. Again, this is the sales tax that we voted, the community voted on back in November. Again, much appreciation to the citizens for voting this back in. It has to do with the highway, like you had stated earlier. And if that's just the way it is, we do have to pay a portion of that. And if we don't have the money, we have to go find the money. And the way that has to be done is not something that we want to do for the citizens of Coffeyville.
It will, and that is a requirement by the state of Kansas, and it depends which time and that stuff. But basically explain, it will expire on December 31st, which is when it started, January 1st, 10 years ago. It is one of those, it will come, retailers will be notified. It will actually go from 9.5 for the sales tax down to 9. Then on April 1st, it will go back up to 9.5. So it's really not, it's more of a formality of how the city or the state has done that, but
Right.
that's just how it'll go forward.
So there's no further, since this is our second reading, I will move to approve ordinance S-23-03 as presented.
Second.
Motion, excuse me, motion is made by Mayor Van Oster, seconded by Commissioner Maples, to approve ordinance S-23-03 as presented. Commissioner Jones?
Aye.
Commissioner Maples?
Aye.
Commissioner Swindell?
Aye.
Mayor Van Oster?
Aye.
Vice Mayor York?
Aye.
Okay. Now we will move on to new business, which we have several items. Our first, we have Resolution R-23-86, which is a resolution to approve the purchase of 4 mowers for our Public Service Department for a total of $59,592.30. Our Director of Public Service, Mr. Bobby Joe Posh, will come forward and make comments.
Good evening.
Good evening, Bobby Joe.
Now, I would like for you to consider the approval of 4 new mowers. 2 of those are 52-inch diesel mid-mounts. They are replacing 2 12-year-old diesel mid-mounts at our cemetery. The other 2 are 72-inch diesel mid-mounts, and they're replacing our range wing mowers, one of which is at the cemetery, the other of which is at Walter Johnson Park. The problem with our range wings is that they are 15 years old, and it's difficult to find parts when we can find parts. What I have done instead of the range wings have a 13-foot cut. We went to 72-inch, so half, but the range wings have wings that come down on them, up and down. A lot of more moving parts, a lot more brakes, a lot more maintenance. Cut all of that out, plus 30 grand in price. Yeah, they are expensive, to say the least. But one of those at Walter Johnson, one at the cemetery, 2 mid-mounts. But we do mow 10 parks, 3 cemeteries. Unfortunately, they've aged. There was other bids. They did not meet the specs, and that's whether it was size, range wing as opposed to just a mid-mount, and price. So they were not considered any further. The 2 mid-mounts, we do have a trade-in on both of those with John's. And John Deere is willing to give us a $7,400, very close $7,400 discount on mower as well. So that's the, do you have any questions? I mean,
No? And this is within your budget?
yes, ma'am.
Okay.
What's the expected delivery on these?
The expected delivery, 3 of those will actually be, so 2 of the 52s and 1 72 will be budgeted out of this year. The other 72 will be budgeted out of next year. Looking for consideration this evening. That way you can go ahead and get it ordered for next year, for spring. They would arrive, I would hope, by April.
Okay. So before next season starts, right?
Before
Yeah.
the mowing
Yeah.
season gets
Right.
good and started. Now, the old range wings, we are going to keep around, mostly because you can't sell them if you wanted to. But as one breaks, it becomes the part machine for the other one until it's just no
Okay.
longer viable to hang on to.
Right.
And,
Then Hyman's gets it, right? So-
excuse me?
And then Hyman's gets it, correct? Yeah. Yeah.
Something like that, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm sure you've noticed the trade-in value on the old 52s.
Yes.
So that's usually what happens to them by the time we're done.
Yeah.
And if we don't, we use industrial mowers, not commercial, because we mow way too much stuff.
Right.
Okay. And thank you for the summary
Yes,
of
absolutely.
the older mowers and the conditions and when purchased and the hours you've got logged in on, and about, parts 90% obsolete. And so there comes that time when.
And that's the problem that we ran into even last year if one of the range wings, so the one out at the Walter Johnson, for instance, breaks down. Then we have to come up with a mower to go out there to cover the amount that we mow out there.
Okay,
Now, granted, we've lost the softball and the baseball field area, but there's still a lot of Walter
to
Johnson.
mow, yes, you're so right. Okay. Does anybody have any further questions for Bobby Joe about this?
Mayor, if there are no other questions, I'll move to approve R 2386 as presented.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Vice Mayor York, seconded by Commissioner Swindell to approve Resolution R-23-86 as presented. Commissioner Swindell?
Aye.
Mayor Van Oster?
Aye.
Vice Mayor York?
Aye.
Commissioner Maples?
Aye.
Commissioner Jones?
Aye.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Bobby
Appreciate
Joe
it.
won't have to buy so much baling wire.
There you go.
There you go.
Save on duct tape.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, I know.
All right, we will now move on to Resolution R-23-87, which is a resolution to amend the scope of work for the KDOT Project 63 TE-0491-01, which is adding 2 additional mobilizations. Our Director of Public Works, Mr. Thomas Osborne, will make comments this evening.
Thank you, Mayor Commissioners. The project in question here is the trail project, so the biking, walking trail on the rail spur, as well as the sidewalk trail. During the construction of that project, there was 4 phases. As they were looking into phase 2, a gas line was found that had not been relocated as we were informed of, so we ended up having to mobilize off of that and then mobilize back. So those are 2 mobilizations that they're adding to this project. And we're currently in negotiations still with KDOT on things as far as days for working days, time delay days, state delay days,
Okay.
weather days. So all that is still kind of up in the air. If you noticed in the draft letter, it kind of talked about some of those working days. They still don't have those finalized, but they are requesting if we could move forward to kind of approve that again, that additional scope of work, because that utility was located in the way and causing those additional mobilities needed, so, or mobilizations. So, be happy to try to answer any questions.
I have none. Does anybody else? I mean, this is kind of it is what it is, and, yeah.
Need to get it done.
That should finalize that, correct, for
We're still
For that
working
part
on
of the project?
now that will finalize the contractors
right.
items, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Mayor, if there are no other questions, I'll move to approve Resolution R-2387 as presented.
Second.
Motion is made by Vice Mayor York, second from Commissioner Jones to approve Resolution R-23-87 as presented. Vice Mayor York?
Aye.
Mayor Van Oster?
Aye.
Commissioner Maples?
Aye.
Commissioner Jones?
Aye.
Commissioner Swindell?
Okay.
Oh.
All right, next we have Resolution R-23-88, which is a resolution to approve supplemental agreement number 1 for KDOT Project 63 TE-0491-01 with KDOT and BG Consultants in the amount of $67,579.92. Once again, our Director of Public Works, Mr. Thomas Osborne, will make comments.
Thank you again, Mayor Commissioners. Again, this is the same biking trail, walking trail, sidewalk project. This is for the construction inspection services through BG Consultants. It is a 3-way agreement between BG Consultants, KDOT, and the City of Coffeyville is how that agreement is put together. As you know, the project, through delays, through unknown utility issues, took significantly longer than was originally planned. Almost another time and it was about 1.5 times as long what it's supposed to have been. So somewhere in the neighborhood of 70 some odd days. I can't remember the exact number of working days that they kind of went over. And that's what's still in negotiation as far as are those working days, are those charge days, liquidated damages, all that is still being negotiated through KDOT right now. This just covers to iron out, okay, this is the fees. So some of liquidated damages will come to pay for some of this. We don't have those numbers yet on exactly how much that is, but this is the cost for the actual hours spent in addition to the original contract for those additional days, as well as any weather days where the contractor may not be charged today by state contract. They might not be charged today, but maybe they're still doing work. that an inspector has to be on site. So we still need to pay for that inspection services. And so that's what this supplemental agreement covers, is those additional working days and hours needed to complete that project.
Any liquidated damages received would go back into that fund to reimburse these?
Yes, and that's what liquidated damages are designed for. They are designed to reimburse for additional construction inspection services, really. It's not to make the project cheaper, it's to
Right.
pay for those additional services that were not planned, so.
And this is all the Safe Routes to School and Trail project, correct?
Yes, yep, that was,
Okay.
it was a
And
combined
then-
transportation
Right,
alternatives grant, yep.
right. And the memo from BG Consultants, it's pretty detailed on everything in there
Yep.
and what, the hours, the days, et cetera. So it's
Great.
got a lot there.
Yep.
Make it for interesting. Okay, does anybody have any further questions for Thomas? If not, I will move to approve Resolution R-23-88 as presented.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Mayor Van Oster, seconded by Commissioner Maples, to approve Resolution Number R-23-88 as presented. Vice Mayor York,
Aye.
Commissioner Maples,
Aye.
Commissioner Swindell,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Mayor Van Oster.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Thomas, for those. Okay, our next item is Resolution R-23-89, which is a resolution authorizing issuance of a purchase order to Newcom in the amount of $59,642.24 for the purchase of 7 Zebra tablets and accessories, issuance of a purchase order to Huber and Associates in the amount of $18,952.03 for the purchase of software, and authorize the purchase order to U.S. Cellular for the upfront cost for the MiFi in the amount of $1,499.94. Our Director of Communications, Chad Souls, will make comments at this time.
Mayor, Commissioners, good evening again.
Good evening,
Chad?
Chad.
As of December the 7th of 2022, the Federal Bureau of Investigation Criminal Justice Information System, or the FBI CJIS unit, has mandated a new security policy to keep sensitive information from being broadcast over a non-encrypted radio frequency. Our current radio system does not meet the minimum requirements, and it is currently unknown how much that is going to cost for those updates. Staff is requesting from the Commission approval to utilize ARPA funds to purchase the 7 Zebra rugged tablets and the accessories, which are the keyboards and cables, along with securable docking stations and vehicle mount brackets for upfitting the patrol fleet. The ability to purchase the tablets would provide an invaluable mobile investigation tool to both patrol and detectives. It would allow them to have the capability to view the department's computer-aided dispatch incident in real time, including all incident details, memos, and notes, and make sensitive notes in TCAD without broadcasting such information over the radio. This also provides staff the ability to look up warrants, reports, incident history, and view our flock license plate readers while out in the field. Another benefit is rapid access of information without a delay from the communications center when the center is tied up with other duties. It would allow both patrol and detective staff to have essentially complete access to CAD, records management, jail management software, as well as the flock and other computerized systems in their patrol unit without having to return to the station. And lastly, it also would bring our agency into compliance with the FBI CJIS with the new radio encryption security policy. Having this type of technology would provide law enforcement with significantly more effective in-the-field workflow, reduce the workload on dispatch staff, and allow them to focus on more critical duties and thereby directly benefit the citizens of Coffeyville with even faster response times and more efficient public safety service. So staff recommends approval to utilize ARPA funds for the purpose of these 7 Zebra tablets. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Does anybody have any specific questions?
So these can be transferred from one vehicle to the other?
That is
right?
correct, yep. So the docking stations will all be already put into the patrol units, and then the tablets will basically be switched between shifts.
Okay. So officers should be able to do reports while they're still out in the field that way?
They
as
can
well?
if they need
Yeah.
to, or they can come back to the station. It's more of a lookup tool and
Right.
also to see what's going on from the dispatch perspective.
Okay.
So if we have a critical incident, they can start seeing notes in real time instead of having to worry about sensitive information going over that radio.
Sure.
And they will use MiFi to receive their wireless signal, correct?
Correct. Yeah, Chris and I, we kind of discussed some of that stuff, and that's both of the recommendations.
Best way to do it, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I might remind the commission during our budget session that we talked about that, they have sacrificed a lot of things, but what surprised me is never thinking to ask what technology is inside. And when I was told, and I explained that to the commission, that we don't have tablets with information, so
Right.
this will, and its attraction as we rebuild and or add to the police force is the technology, you know, for crime and that, but also for recruits will be state-of-the-art as we move forward. Of course, maybe not, Chad probably has more things in store.
You never know.
And so the radio issue with the FBI,
That is something that I'm looking into right now. It's going to cost probably quite a bit of money, so this is going to help us out just a little bit for right now,
okay.
till I can figure out how much it's going to cost and if there's some grant funds out there.
Very
Is
good.
there a deadline for getting that done?
Right now, it's all still up. I have an audit tomorrow, Thursday, excuse me, with our KHP auditor, and that's when I'll start learning more information about it.
Very
And
good.
once again, just a reminder to those listening, this is utilizing the ARPA funds for
Correct.
this, correct? Okay. All right. Any other questions for Chad?
Mayor, if there are no other questions, I'll move to approve resolution R 2389 as presented.
Second.
Motion is made by Vice Mayor York, seconded by Commissioner Jones to approve resolution number R-23-89 as presented. Commissioner Swindell?
Aye.
Commissioner Maples?
Aye.
Commissioner Jones?
Aye.
Mayor Van Oster?
Aye.
Vice Mayor York?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chad.
Thank you, Chad, very much. Okay, next we have Resolution R-23-90, which is a resolution to authorize the purchase of 11 sets of bunker gear from Delta Fire and Safety in the amount of $40,278.81. Our Fire Chief, Mr. Hal Bumgarner, will make comments.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Glad to be here.
Welcome.
Yeah, we we had two different bids on this bunker gear, and this is safety equipment. This is the turnout gear that they wear going into a structure fire or a car fire or what have you. And I believe with this additional set that this will allow them two different sets, so they don't have to put on wet gear over and over, and also extends the life of the gear as well.
Sure.
So we had two different bids, and fortunately, the gear that they already have matched the lowest bid of what we currently have, so they're getting not only the lowest bid, but we're also getting the gear that we wanted.
Right.
So I can answer any questions if you have any. This is a whole set, that's coat
Right.
and pants, suspenders and everything.
So life expectancy of?
10 years.
10 years.
10 year.
Okay. All right.
Very good.
Yes. Okay. Any other questions for Chief Bumgarner? Okay, if not, I will move to approve Resolution R-23-90 as presented.
Second.
Motion is made by Mayor Van Oster, seconded by Commissioner Swindell to approve resolution number R-23-90 as presented. Commissioner Jones?
Aye.
Commissioner Swindell?
Aye.
Commissioner Maples?
Aye.
Mayor Van Oster?
Aye.
Vice Mayor York?
Aye.
And
Thank you.
once again, I think I forgot to bring, and you did too, this again is using ARPA funds.
Yes, ma'am.
It is ARPA funds.
It's
Okay.
using ARPA and this will, like Hal said, these are two complete sets that have been purchased through ARPA. So
Okay.
there's 19 for each set. And this, we ordered 8, and then this 11 that he's getting will make the 19. So there's 2 complete sets of new bunker gear.
Okay,
It's probably about 6 or 7 months before we actually get it.
okay,
Try to get it
that's the
finished.
delivery time. Okay,
Thank
all
you.
right, thank you very much. Okay, moving on, we have Resolution R-23-91, which is a resolution to authorize the purchase of 2 Zoll AEDs, 3 BLM EMS fire package from Zoll Medical Corporation in the amount of $6,523.40. Our Chief of Police, Mr. Quinn Bromley, will make comments.
Mayor, Commissioners, good evening.
Good evening,
In
Quinn.
2010, the city recognized the need to have AEDs available for the various city facilities and departments, including 2 AEDs for the fire department. The AEDs are intended to protect both our citizens and employees in the event of a medical emergency. The two AEDs assigned to the fire department were placed on both the primary and secondary response trucks. The current AEDs assigned to the fire department are in serviceable condition. They are all of the remaining 9 AEDs distributed to the city departments. Excuse me. They are all in serviceable condition. However, the current fire department AEDs are not compatible with the Zoll AEDs that EMS currently utilizes. So when our fire department goes out and they do use the AEDs, they're unable to get the exact set of pads and supplies from EMS. So the plan is, if approved, purchasing compatible AEDs for the fire department. Those 2 units would go to the fire department. The existing 2 AEDs that they currently have would go to 2 other departments in the city that currently do not have AEDs. And then Chief Bumgarner has informed me that sometime next year he will apply for additional AEDs to try to offset the other departments that don't have them as well.
Okay, that's good. Great.
If you've ever seen one of those work, they're very effective and.
And the Zolls are the top of the line AEDs, and that's why your emergency medical services all utilize those.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions for Chief Bromley on this?
Mayor, if there are no other questions, I'll move to approve Resolution R-2391 as presented.
Also, I'm sorry, was that Commissioner Maples?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion is made by Vice Mayor York, seconded by Commissioner Maples, to approve Resolution R-23-91 as presented. Commissioner Jones?
Aye.
Vice Mayor York?
Aye.
Commissioner Swindell?
Aye.
Mayor Van Oster?
Aye.
Commissioner Yaples?
Aye.
And those are using ARPA funds also?
Those
Just
are
for
ARPA.
those are listening, okay. All right. Next, we have Resolution R-23-92, which is a resolution to authorize the purchase of a Kenwood UHF 800 MHz dual band radio and associated equipment, license, and labor from Action Communications LLC in the amount of $3,882.58. Once again, our Chief of Police, Quinn Bromley, will make comments.
Back in 2019, through the Homeland Security, during that time period, in 2021, that project had to be reapproached, and that project was split into 2 projects because the cost of the trailer doubled, and the vehicle also increased. The original package include, it was a turnkey package with both the primary vehicle and the trailer, the graphics, the lights, the radio, etc. Long story short, because of the costs that continued to go up as the project was delayed over and over, At the end, the fire department, even purchasing a used emergency light bar for the truck, still did not have the funds to buy a radio to equip it. The hazmat response area in southeast Kansas is 12 counties. Although we have a large UHF digital radio present footprint in that area, there's still areas of the Homeland Security area that they respond to, of their responsibility, that they do not have radio coverage. And as I pointed out in my staff report, that on several occasions, the hazmat team were unable to reach our PD communication center and had to use their cell phones, which is not a recommended practice because in the case of the suspicious white powder letters being a criminal case,
Right.
their cell phones are subject to subpoena should that ever go to trial. And so it's just not a recommended practice.
Sure.
A dual band 800 system would enable them to communicate also with other partnering fire departments and law enforcement agencies, state agencies that utilize the 800 system on the statewide template. So I'm recommending that we purchase a dual band UHF 800 megahertz radio system for the fire department to put inside the hazmat response truck.
Okay. I have no further questions. Pretty well explained it all there and our timeline and what all happened. Does anybody else have any questions for Quinn?
I would like to point out that
Oh,
this
yeah.
is ARPA
Okay,
funds
yes.
being utilized.
Forget. Okay. Thank you. If no more questions, I will move to approve Resolution R-23-92 as presented.
Second.
Motion is made by Mayor Van Oster, seconded by Vice Mayor York to approve Resolution R-23-92 as presented. Vice Mayor York,
Aye.
Mayor Van Oster,
Aye.
Commissioner Maples,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Swindell.
Aye.
Thank
Thank you, Quinn, very much for all your work on that. Okay, we will now move on to City Manager's report.
I just would like to say a personal thank you to, all staff. It is truly a great thing. We did a reorganization. They progressed and farther than my expectations as far as leaning forward. Commissioner York was present this morning, and yes, it's hard not to get choked up about they're truly capable and professional at what they do. And it is one of those that's part of why the city will go forward and the city will do great things is they all know where they need to go. But what is so great is they know how to get there. And it is the city, it's hard to explain that where we're at right now, we can't go any lower. We can't go any lower, and we can't be like the University of, or Wichita State University and sit there and settle for being 7,500. So with that, the only places to go is up. And they know what to do. And I said this morning, they are writing the story for the future of Coffeyville. It is one of those that someday a kid growing up here will be asked 20 years later what it was like to grow up in Coffeyville. And that child, as a grown adult, will tell the story that they're writing right now. So I do thank you for allowing me to work with them, and thank you again for the opportunity. Coffeyville is a great place. It's got great people, and it's it's in the right direction. So, thank you again for allowing me the opportunity.
Well, we thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay, we will now have comments from commissioners and staff. Does anybody have anything in particular?
I just wanted to say thank you to Mark for all your dedication and the things that people didn't see Mark doing, like Sunday mornings downtown picking up trash and
I haven't missed, because I actually went down there later after the parade, because I knew we would be leaving the next morning. So that started with a promise made to Reawakening January 26, 2019.
Yep.
And, you know, Paul Bauer, when he used to work out, he'd see me. I got to meet everybody downtown
Yep.
over the time, and I enjoyed I enjoyed when Ron Bryce about ran me over.
Yeah.
It was fun, but that got me exercising. I enjoyed that, and it was once or twice, at least once every weekend, and it turned out to be kind of a fun thing. So, thanks for recognizing that.
Thank you for your service,
Thank you.
Mark. We
Yeah,
certainly
much appreciated.
appreciate you. Yeah.
Okay, anybody have anything else?
We have our community breakfast for Vanguard this Saturday, 7 to 10:30. And then, again, I'd like to say thank you to Mark. One thing that I'm very grateful for is that, you know, despite all the ridicule, you fought for Coffeyville clear up to this present time. And I was very impressed with the fight at DC. I mean, just to the case presented, and you were there for Coffeyville. Thank you.
Well, and thank you, and thank you. You know, that's a big thing, and that's why future commissions, if you're not there, it doesn't work.
Yep.
We can talk to FEMA and those things, but if you're not there with senators and congressmen, then it's very hard to get anything done. So,
And
thank
I will
you.
say, every one of their staff members brought that to us as well. So
Yes.
it makes a big difference to have a
does.
personal
Showed up.
presence. So,
Hey.
They
yep.
were.
they don't see too many people
Nope.
from the state they're representing.
Yep.
Yep.
So,
If you haven't been out to the mansion, go take a mansion tour.
Yep.
Always
Camp
beautiful.
Tours are coming up.
Yep.
Yep.
Take your time to get your tickets, go out there, look at the mansion. It's always beautiful.
Okay, do you have anything?
I don't have
Okay.
anything.
Yep.
But just
All right.
thank you, Mark. And my husband picks up trash once a month.
I know.
On Saturday, and
We've
he's
seen
running
each
to
other.
Mm-hmm.
It is one of those.
I bought a thing to reach up to get spices and stuff down, and he uses it to
Yeah.
pick up trash.
Yeah.
I just want to remind everybody that once a month, on like this last agenda packet that was published, our sales tax reports are in there, as you brought up on your presentation. And where we are now is phenomenal in the collections. So that has to be given kudos to our citizens for that. And of course, for the 1/3 that comes through that don't stay here, but they spend some money here also. Because all of that is very important. With that, the different things, Mark, that you brought up for our sales tax initiative, especially the one that was voted in last year, the downtown, the housing, and the parks. That has been wonderful. And I know you took a lot of time and worked with our Parks Board on that. A lot of Saturdays you all spent to do that. This is just a great thing for Coffeyville. It's great to see Sycamore Park and how it's progressing and what everybody is doing out there on their part, all the department heads. But that initiative and many other, the housing and so forth that you have done is very much appreciated.
Thank you.
And we thank you for that. It has moved Coffeyville forward in an area that maybe hasn't been thought of in a while. And we hope to continue what you have kind of left us to do and start. So we
Truly
thank
been
you.
an honor.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I am going to make a motion that we recess to executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel matters of non-elected personnel as permitted by the non-elected personnel matter exception to the Open Meetings Act as set forth in KSA 75-4319B1, to include the city commission and to reconvene in the commission room at
I need a 5-minute break.
okay, okay. So we'll take a 5-minute break. We'll go into executive session at 8:15. And is that right? It's 8, yes. And we will reconvene at 8:30, okay? So that's my motion. Second.
Was that Commissioner Maples' second? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Motion.
It doesn't matter.
Motion is made by Mayor Van Oster, seconded by Commissioner Maples to recess to executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel matters of non-elected personnel as permitted by the non-elected personnel matter exception to the Open Meetings Act as set forth in KSA 75-4319B1 to include the city commission and to reconvene in the city commission room at 8:30 PM. Commissioner Jones?
Aye.
Mayor Van Oster?
Aye.
Vice Mayor York? Commissioner Maples?
Aye.
Commissioner Swindell?
Aye.
Okay. I will call our meeting back to order. At this time, we have just reconvened from executive session. And with that being said, we do have action for this evening. And right now, I will make a motion to approve Resolution R-23-93, which is a resolution to authorize the execution of an employment agreement with Tim Wilson to serve as interim city manager for the city of Coffeyville, Kansas.
I'll second. You got it?
You've got to go ahead.
Motion is made by Mayor Van Oster, seconded by Commissioner Maples, to approve Resolution R-23-93, a resolution to authorize the execution of an employment agreement with Tim Wilson to serve as interim city manager for the city of Coffeyville, Kansas. Mayor Van Oster,
Aye.
Vice Mayor York,
Aye.
Commissioner Swindell,
Aye.
Commissioner Maples,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones.
Aye.
Okay. Tim, if you wouldn't mind, can you come up and kind of introduce and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Good evening.
Good evening. Oh, can you, excuse me, press your mic? There you go.
I learned a whole lot from that, and it's good to see while there are areas of opportunity to improve, you've made a lot of progress. I mean, it's really good to see, point out all the good things that are going on. So, just a little bit about myself. When Anne Marie called me, my first thought was, am I crazy to even consider this? And the last conversation was, I'm really excited. I mean, this is going to be fun. So I am excited. But just a little bit of background. I grew up I was born in Parsons, Kansas, but moved to Coffeyville when I was 5 years old with my 12 brothers and sisters. So we've got more family than voters in this town. So from there, I went to Holy Name grade school. Phil Kinley, and then I graduated from Coffeyville Junior College, went on to Washburn University. So, I never planned to leave Kansas, but things just kind of happened, and I went to the banking industry, and so I started in Kansas City. From there, I went to Long Island, New York, from there to Dallas, Texas, from there to Chicago, Illinois, then to Northern California, finally to Charlotte, North Carolina, and Washington, D.C. So I've lived everywhere. And the most interesting thing is I chose to come back and live the rest of my life here. I mean, I love this county, and more importantly, I love this city. I mean, this city, and I've got, like I said, 12 siblings. I mean, it's unbelievable how successful our family has been growing up here and being educated here. And, I got jobs I never dreamed possible that I got based on my education here that I never dreamed I could get as I was growing up as a kid. So, I owe a lot to Coffeyville, and I intend to use this position to start to give back. And I'm wildly enthusiastic about this town. I mean, everything all the areas of concern that Mark pointed out, they're all curable. Mm-hmm. We can cure population loss. We can certainly cure housing. And I think the good thing for me in this position is I've been in housing for 30 years. So while this is an interim position for hopefully 3 months, maybe 6 months, I fully intend to stay actively involved in housing. I spent 2 hours with Mike Evie today driving around Coffeyville looking at some of the new housing projects. Really impressive, So all of these things seem like they're not layups. They're going to take work, but curable. So I'm really wildly enthusiastic about the opportunity to move the city forward. While it's an interim job, I will work hard at it. So I intend to get stuff done. So, because that's just kind of my MO. And I know there's some critical positions still left to be filled, and I'm going to work hard to get that done. That's going to be priority number one, and I will work hard on a number of other things. So I want to thank the commission. I want to welcome the incoming commission members, and I want to talk with the outgoing commission members as well. And I want to thank you for your service. I know it's a many times a thankless job, doesn't pay very well, I've heard. So, you know, I really applaud your service because there's no reason to do it other than try to help the city. So I really
Correct.
applaud that, so thank you.
Jason
And thanks
and
for
I were
entrusting
just
this
visiting
position.
Tim on the way back in from executive, said one thing about leaving the commission is you don't take a pay cut, so.
Well,
It's-
that's a
yeah,
great
yeah.
point. And Mark, I really want to say, enjoy retirement. Take it from me, it's awesome.
Yeah.
And I plan to be back there soon, so right there with you. So
Okay.
thanks again for the opportunity.
Okay.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Tim, very much. Okay. Does anybody have anything else?
I do not, man.
Just one thing.
Uh-huh.
We moved back here after being gone for 10 years. People told me from Claremore, where we moved from, you can't ever go home again. Things aren't the same. You can't do it. Yes, you can. You become involved in the community. You do your part, and you fit right back in. And it's a wonderful community. I love this place.
And there's no traffic.
Yeah, yeah.
Not like Tulsa.
You can get wherever.
Yeah, yeah.
All those other cities I mentioned, no problems here unless there's a train on.
Very-
That's
There you
right.
go. Yeah.
There we go. Okay, great. Okay. Anything else?
No, man.
Nope.
Okay, if not, I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion is made to adjourn by Mayor Van Oster, second by Vice Mayor York. All in favor, please signify a show of hands. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and
Thank you,
everybody
Allison.
have a very Merry Christmas, and we'll be back here